Hey everyone, is your external actions aligning with your internal thoughts? Today we're going to be talking about conscious congruency and how imperative it is in our lives to understand our daily walk. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of the Bump Podcast. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Bump Podcast. I'm your host Shamir here with my co-host and beloved brother Nabil.
Salutations everybody. Welcome to another week. We're excited to be talking about today's topic. But before anything else, what do they need to do?
They need to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on the ringle-dingle-dingle and follow us on all our social platforms. And we thank you guys, as always, for tuning in.
Absolutely. Conscious congruency. Shamir, what does that even mean? Nabil, who thought of that idea? Well, it's actually a really interesting topic. Shamir's the one who came across it and brought it to my attention. And I spoke with my wife about it a little bit since she's studying to be a therapist. I guess she kind of already is a therapist.
Yeah. She definitely is because she has patience.
She absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah. But she's still going to school to get her final credentials, as it were. She's working really hard, and I'm proud of her. But this is definitely something that I think needs to be spoken about a lot more. And today we're taking that initiative to bring it to all of your attention. So
yeah, do you want to do the do you got the meaning?
Yeah.
All right.
You actually sent it to me. So
great. Yeah.
Conscious congruency. This means that a person is congruent when their outside actions match what they feel on the inside. In other words, it's when the behavior of a person matches with how they feel and think about the situation. I mean, congruence in self kind of means that, right? Like it needs to be aligned with whatever.
For sure. You know, a little funny anecdote. There was a I was in geometry class in 10th grade. And the word congruent was the first time I had heard it. I'm like, what does this even mean?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, that was a time in my life, because we had just came from Puerto Rico. So it was like
trying to figure out English again.
Yeah, like the grammar was very, very advanced for me. Like my English was very basic at the time. And man,
it wasn't that basic, but
it wasn't like,
it's not where you're at now.
Yeah, at all. And then like when the teacher would look at me, she's like, it's incredible how you do not get anything that's on this paper, because then it was like everything geometry. I know a lot of people have issues with geometry, but like, man, I was just like not getting anything, dude. I had an F in the class, like I really did. So then
it's even more incredible that the teacher was like, I don't, you don't understand it. Like they didn't even have the interest to like help you.
No, I mean, yes, but it was just like, she's just like, we got to change you to a different class because you. So then it was like 2 different math classes that same year.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was horrible. But
so
anyways, that was one of the words that came up, and as time went by, and obviously I started to read and understand things more, I was just like, well, congruence is definitely an easy word to understand. It's technically being equal or aligned.
Correct.
So, and then, obviously being conscious about this is very important. So I was watching TikTok the other day. And TikTok's been an outlet where I use it mostly for the podcast, but I also go on there for there's just so many different things you could learn. Like maybe it could just be a set of words like these two, conscious congruency. And then you look it up and then you go on a rabbit hole on to like literally educate yourself on these kind of things. And then when you start to understand it, it's like, wow, when you really comprehend what this means, it is something very simple, but it's something that a lot of people don't have, especially when I think one of the main things that hinder people with conscious congruency is influences.
Okay.
Right? Because you might have a thought internally, but your external is just going by what the influence is around you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And we've all fallen into that before.
Yeah. There's another significance. Do you want me to read it or
it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I could.
You could read the definition. I'll read the example.
Great. So it says here, in psychology, congruence refers to the alignment between an individual's internal experiences, feelings, and thoughts, and their external expression or behavior. This concept, introduced by Carl Rogers, is fundamental to achieving authenticity, self-actualization, and psychological well-being.
And an example of this, let's say Shamir feels a deep sense of fulfillment when helping others, which is congruent with his external behavior, as he is always willing to lend a helping hand to friends and family. This alignment of his internal feelings and his external actions contributes to his sense of authenticity and well-being. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically, whatever you feel inward is what you're going to show on the outside as well. I feel like, as I was doing some research too, I feel like some of the explanations tend to make it a little bit more complicated than it actually is.
Yeah, it could be a little bit more complex. Just
and I mean, like it's needed. It's needed. But if we're just trying to get to the root of it, that's pretty much the root of it. We're aligned with our internal feelings and thoughts. As I was also doing some of the research for this, because before you mentioned it, like I hadn't really thought of this topic. I hadn't really come across it.
Right.
It led me to, for all of the fellow believers, in the book of Romans, we're in the Bible, of course, where they're Paul,
right,
one of the goats of the entire Bible, if you ask me. He's talking to the people about circumcision. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's when you cut that little extra layer above the wank when you're a baby. So back then, all the religious leaders and all that stuff were like, well, I'm circumcised. But does that mean you're better than me? You're holier than me? And Paul was basically just telling them, like, no, that doesn't make you better than me, or not better, but more so holier or more clean than a standard sinner would be. He says it doesn't make sense for you to be circumcised and yet you're still committing all of these sinful acts knowingly and thinking you're still gonna like go to heaven. You know what I mean? Right. You have to actually like, okay, yes, if you are circumcised and whatnot, in those times, you also have to match, your actions have to also match that good part of you. And religious leaders in those times, and even to this day, sometimes can be super stubborn, and they're just like, no, well, my way and my belief system is exactly what it is, and you're going to hell. And it's like, no, bro. Right. In order for us to all, have the opportunity to go to heaven, we need to demonstrate different things that the Lord tells us to.
So you're technically saying that a lot of people's spirituality, which is obviously internal, is not aligning fully with their external, obviously, for example, like judgment.
Correct.
Because if
judgment, criticism, constantly, condemning people to go to hell because of what they do. Right. And it's like, but bro, you're judging. Yeah. And I'm not saying no one's exempt from this. I've judged before. You've judged before. Those of you listening and watching have judged before. We all do it. Right. But it's being aware of when we're doing something incorrectly, be aware of it and correct it ourselves so that we're not, demonstrating the hypocrisy of it all. Right. And we're not always going to get it right. So we need to own up to that, and once we do and we become aware of it and we take action on it, I feel like that's when you're demonstrating a Christ-like attitude. And then in turn, you're following on what we're talking about today's topic. Yeah. You're aligning yourself with the internal parts, the internal beautiful parts and positive parts, aligning it with the outward stuff, and people are going to see it. And people, like what we've talked about in previous episodes, are going to be drawn to that light. They're going to be drawn to that positive, those positive attributes that you have. Right. And that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do here on the Bump Podcast is to put it in practice ourselves first, and then obviously instill all of this knowledge and information into you guys so that you guys can kind of put it into practice. Whatever kind of draws your attention, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I can work on this. Let me write it down so I can start working on it and I don't forget it. I don't know, just things like that. Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought all that stuff from the Bible, because it's something that, it's not a discrepancy, but it's probably maybe a negative of
conscious congruency, which is, you know, what about people that do evil all the time? And then that's what they really feel. Or what about a person that off of impulse, which is their feeling internally, they go off and do negative things or argue or yell or be aggressive. You know, how do we change that, you know? Like,
but at least in that regard, in terms of, bless you, terms of today's topic, it's still aligning. It's still part of the this whole, you know, congruency of it all.
I feel like a lot of the new generation, and the reason why I say this is, I mean, social media is, how could I say, I feel like social media is not just self-cleansing on itself, but it's also, it'll definitely expose a lot of the things that are occurring nowadays, but not fully, right? Because there's a lot of things that are always left out. Right.
Oh yeah,
especially with like
stories and everything,
just like the news and all that stuff. But let's say just people that randomly post things that are happening on like college campuses or at the mall or just any, you know, public place. Right. You start to see a lot of these new generation kids out there. They're not aligned at all. Like they're just everywhere. You know, they have certain beliefs, but then this person said this and they'll go with what that person said. And then their parents said to do this, they do otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like a mess, and they don't know
it really is
where their principles are, because that's another thing. Like, people don't understand that, like, we could be in any time of existence, but there's always some sort of principle, something that you stand by, right? And we're in a time where a lot of people don't even, like, if you were to ask them, like, hey, what is your principles? Like, what do you live by? What do you believe in? You know, and not just religion. It could be anything. Like,
yeah, just their lifestyle,
like,
their way of being.
What's your core? You know, like, what's your
moral compass?
What's your essence? Exactly. That's a really good one. And people don't know if they're going north, south, east, or west.
I think it's because a lot of people too, and if in that regard, I feel like that's because a lot of people are typically living on autopilot.
Yeah, honestly,
the fact that they don't, it doesn't even occur to them to make time to just sit down and be like, what is it that I want to do in life?
Yeah,
what do I want out of life, and all the experiences that I go through every single day? Like, like, dang, if you don't really have time for that, or if you haven't made time for that, you need to, like, immediately stop what you're doing and just think about it and take notes and see it, like, literally visualize it and see what you can do to work on it, make it better.
Right. And it's like we were talking to the mechanic earlier about how the world is functioning, and especially like he pointed out, like, okay, like, especially in this country, like, so many people are just living in such a negative environment that, you know, positivity to them is like irrelevant or ignorant.
No, it seems dumb. Like it doesn't make sense. Like, they're not used to it, is what he was saying.
And it's like we were talking to Mom earlier about, like, you know, the political aspect of this country right now. Like, these people are holding accountable so many things that haven't been held accountable. Like, you know, the money and our taxes and stuff like that. That people are just like, you know, the extreme left is just bashing, you know, the right wingers. And I mean, and that's always been a thing, but it's just like, you know, let's talk about reality, is that if the government's holding accountable, that's a good thing, especially, you know, when it comes to our taxpayer dollars. And then people are getting mad because they're literally pointing out where the allocation of our money is going to, right? And that they're cutting funds here and there. So it's just like, hey, you know, it might look negative in certain aspects right now, but down the road, hopefully, you know, the money goes back to the people, or to at least into, you know, infrastructure and things that we need in society to continue to move forward. But for some reason, just a lot of things aren't aligned. And that's why I found this topic to be, you know, probably fairly quick, because there's a lot to talk about. Or the problem is with these topics is that, like, it brings so many other topics we can talk about that like we just like go on different rabbit holes. But you know, nowadays, just there's so much going on that I feel like nobody, and so much information is being shared in different, like, positive,
even on here,
right, that, like, people don't know what to believe anymore. People don't know what to think. That's why, like, when people ask me, like, do you know what's going to happen next or whatever, I'm just like, I don't know.
We just live day by day.
What I can say is that what we do promote here on Bump Podcast on a constant basis, which is positivity, you know, believe in like God, religion, or whatever. Stay prayed up. Stay, you know, do something. You know, just try to be positive throughout all the storm that's going on and the havoc in this country and just in the world as a whole. You know, and do your part as a person on a constant basis, so you could just, you know, not worry about like, and just be ready for like anything that comes your way. It's like our topic that's and that was last week Wednesday. We were talking about, you know, being prepared for anything, and realistically we have to be, because at the end of the day, for us believers, we want to make sure that we make it to heaven. We want to make sure that we're at peace, that our people around us are at peace, and that they're left with a good word, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
We need to be aligned, ladies and gentlemen. We need to know what we stand for, what we want to do, where we're going, because like Nabil said, if our compass ain't where it needs to be, we don't know where we're going. We're just walking in circles. You know,
we're not going north, south, east, or west. We're going like northeast.
Yeah, we're just not right, you know, and that's why I've been trying to look for topics like this, you know, preparation, conscious congruency, and a lot of other topics we spoke about in the past, because we're trying to bring awareness to you guys to hold yourself accountable as a person, as an individual, because that's another thing. Nobody's going to come here and tell you, hey, let me help you with you being more aligned with your life. We're doing it on this platform, but outside of it, we can't reach every single one of you guys in person and say, hey, you know, that's why we do it through these platforms, in order to, you know, say like, hey, we're here, you know. But obviously a lot of people prefer, you know, clicking on the negative stuff of the world, or the entertaining things that the system wants you to, you know, pay more attention to entertainment and all these things, you know, instead of, that's why I've cut off a lot of TV, man. Honestly, I've cut off a lot of the entertainment things, and I've left them maybe for like at night, if not like a weekend thing or something.
For me, I honestly been watching a lot of comedy lately.
Yeah, that's also good.
A lot of different comedy shows, just to get a good laugh, because some of the comedic shows literally just make fun of things that people are taking too seriously. And sometimes it's like, yeah, we just need a good laugh and not be so uptight about certain things. Like, it just, sometimes we either take things too seriously, or sometimes it's literally the opposite. Some people take it too much of a joke. They're not taking it serious enough. There has to be a happy medium. We need to know when we need to take things seriously and when we don't. There's always a time and place for that stuff. That's just my thought, because if not, you know, there's so many people that already live a negative life as it is. Like, why do we choose that? More than likely because of the content you're consuming, watching the news 24/7 without breathing. That annoys the heck out of me. Because that's the first
we should do a topic on that, like kind of like disengaging or something like that from a lot of things.
Knowing the content we're consuming too, it's super imperative. Super imperative stuff. But yeah, I don't know if you have pretty much anything else to say in terms of this. I think our goal for today's episode really is just making sure you guys understand where we're coming from with this topic, and you guys can truly align yourselves with what kind of person you want to be, and stay consistent with that internally and outwardly, because otherwise it's just kind of like you're not really making sense. Like, what kind of a person are you? Am I going to vibe out with you? Are you going to be a person that's going to bless me, or just constantly, you know, be some sort of a barricade where I can't progress in life? You don't want to be that for a person. You want to be someone who you're reliable, trustworthy, person who can, you know, you're the person that someone seeks out when they need to be heard, when they need to be consoled, when they want to celebrate some good news of some sort, you know. That's the kind of person that I strive to be. You know, I want to be a light. I think we both want to be a light to everyone that we come in contact with, including those of you guys watching or listening to our podcast.
Right.
That's just what our goals are here. Your goals might be different, and that's okay.
Right.
This is just a safe platform for anybody and everybody who wants to do better, move forward in life.
I got a little quote
quote away
to close it out for today. It's a really good one, very simple. It says, "Until we make the unconscious conscious, we will be dictated by it and call it fate." Okay.
Yes, sir. That I agree with.
It was when I saw this video about conscience congruency the other day. Obviously, I kind of understood what it meant, but like doing the research and all that stuff definitely
opened your eyes more.
Opened up to like, man, you got to continue to be conscious about the things, because that's what I'm about nowadays. Like accountability to me, myself, and the actions I do. Like earlier today, like I was telling the Bill on my way to his house before we came to the studio and whatnot. I went to the gas station. It was early morning. It was like 8 o'clock. And I went to go put air in the tires of my truck, and the pump wasn't working. There's another one, but there was a guy parked there. He ended up going into the gas station to buy something. And he came back out, but what I did is I just pumped gas to see if it gave enough time for him to leave. And he was still there after I was done pumping. So I was like, hey, be a little bit more considerate that that pump's broken and you're using. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, it's not about saying I'm sorry. It's just the simple fact of just being considerate, right? And what I mean by that is like I walk my daily basis that every action I do, I hold accountable for. I'm considerate. I try to be a better person on a daily basis. See, all these things are like just, my principles. It's what I work for on a constant basis to have people understand that I am aligned, I am focused, I am determined, and I'm willing to help, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I want to leave it for you guys today, that anything you do in public or behind the doors, may it all be all the same thing, and you'll understand yourself better, and you'll see a better you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on the ringle dingle dingle. Follow us on all our social platforms. We love you guys.
We do.
And it'll be until next week, and the week after that, and next year, and the next month.
That's the hope.
Everything.
That's
We're gonna
the
keep
hope.
pushing.
Yeah.
So we'll see y'all later.
Have a great week, everybody. See you soon.